This church, whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. We are so happy that you've chosen this YouTube channel, this Sabbath, this sanctuary in time. We know that you have so many options on Sunday morning, and that you choose to be here is something that we celebrate, particularly on this Memorial Day weekend. So we're glad to have you here. We extend an especially warm welcome to our visitors and anyone who may be watching our service online for the first time. If you'd like to follow along with the hymns using a hymnal and forgot to pick one up as you walked in, please feel free to grab one on the cart that's right back there and right over there in a moment when we greet one another. We now invite everyone to greet each other in any way you possibly can, elbows if you're here, and if you're joining us online, please say hi in the chat. It's great to be here together. Now we have two announcements.
Good morning. The worship and congregational life teams would like to invite you to a special Pride celebration next Sunday, June 4th. We will celebrate the beginning of Pride Month and all the wonderful things happening in our lives with cake, ice cream, and a special performance by Sassa Brass, a Casey Street parade band. Festivities will take place after the service on the front lawn by the Labyrinth. So bring some sunscreen and a lawn chair and enjoy some fellowship with us. Thank you.
Good morning. I have just an update on where we are at with our annual pledge drive. And unfortunately, we still have about 65 pledging units, families or individuals, who have not pledged. So I would request that if you have been holding up for any reason or have any questions about anything, please go ahead and make your pledge. Talk to me or another member of the board or the church staff. I'd be happy to talk with you after the service today. We're about $130,000 below our goal right now. We do have an anonymous donor that has pledged $40,000 in matching for additional pledges that come in starting now. So that would be increases or new pledges. So anything that you can do to help would be very good. The board will be meeting in about 2 weeks to finalize the budget for the year, and we will not be able to do that if we do not have a more complete picture of where we're at. And unless we get much closer to our goal, we will be having to make some very hard decisions. Thank you.
Would like to thank Chuck Burgee for giving me bell ringing lessons. He did a good job. Come, let us worship. Please rise as you are willing and able for hymn number 44, We Sing of Golden Mornings.
We sing the earth's great splendor, whose beauty round us glows.
As Quinn comes forward to light her chalice, we invite you to join us as we recite our covenant. Let us affirm that love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Hello, my name's Curtis. Theme reflection time. So each month we as a community take time to reflect on a theme. The children do this in their classes and we do it here in worship and in our small groups. This month the theme is creativity. Big word. So it's been a powerful month. It's been a powerful theme. We meet in the small group twice a month, and at the first phase of this month, one of the questions that was asked was, if you were a song, what song would you be? Or a movie, but I chose songs. And there were two songs in particular, Behind Blue Eyes by Pete Townsend, which talks about struggling to deal with one's own foibles. And then I chose Nature Boy by Nat King Cole. And if nobody has ever heard or seen, because there was a wonderful YouTube video of Nat King Cole, black and white in front of the piano, singing Nature Boy, I highly recommend it. You will be moved. I won't go into the lyrics of Behind Blue Eyes. I think most of us have heard it. Plus, I'm more focused on Nature Boy. There was a boy, a very strange, enchanted boy. They say he wandered very far, over land and sea, a little shy and sad of eye, but very wise was he. And then one day, One magic day, he passed my way. And while we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. How many people in here, I'm just curious, have ever been told or even personally feel that they are not creative? By raise of hands, who here has ever been told that they're not creative, right? How many of y'all are also parents or take care of loved ones? Newsflash, you are naturally creative. You come up with creative ways all the time to deal with unique situations. One of the things about creativity is it's a phenomenon where something new and valuable is formed. This creative item may be intangible or a physical object. One of the things in our small group that we focused on was creativity isn't just a work on my part, it's a collaborative process. Shortly after I gave my songs to my small group, my daughter attempted to take her life. She's been in KU for 2 weeks. Acute liver failure. But she has rebounded. She's being discharged tomorrow. In my life, dealing with my children, I have come up with all types of creative solutions to try and help them along the way, right? And oftentimes, I have felt like I have failed if I'm trying to do it on my own. I give my daughter the tools, show her how to safely use them, teach her about boundaries and borders, how colors interact with one another. My daughter wrote me something after she got discharged from ICU. My daughter still has issues. She is still having to she's going to have to start adulting as she turns 18 next week. She wrote me a long letter. I will not read everything in it because we are still struggling for her to recognize me as that greatest ally she will ever have instead of the biggest enemy that she can conceive of. But in all of this, she wrote, I know that my dad loves me. That's the most important thing. That comes from me being creative with her.
I'd like to invite the children to join me at the front. Good morning. I'd like to read a story to you today called The Hugging Tree. It's a story about resilience, how we overcome obstacles and get through difficult times. On a bleak and lonely rock, by a vast and mighty sea, grew a lonely little tree where no tree should ever be. How she got there, no one knew. She sprouted stems and little leaves as any tiny seed will do. There's hardly any dirt for me, no forest breeze, no birds, no bees, but I will do the best I can to make this rock my home. Her tiny roots pushed day and night, and bit by bit the rock gave way. A smidge, an inch, a foot, then two. She grew and grew and grew and grew. The ocean hugged the rocky shore. I like you near me, little tree. Let's keep each other company. Soft gold sunbeams kissed her crown, warm as honey pouring down. At night she raised her branches high to greet the moon up in the sky. I wax and wane, I ebb and flow, I cycle through from full to thin. And when I'm done, I start again. That's how life is, you know. One summer noon, a pair of loons landed on her canopy. A pretty tree, a sparkling sea. Shall we make this place our home and raise our baby chicks right here? A little tree, warmed up with pride, she spread her branches high and wide. I'll be your home, she replied. And can you tell me if you've seen the forest where my family grew? We've built our nest in trees like you, quite far from here, and so you blew many nights and many days. You blew on wind just like we do. They built their nest, they laid their eggs, and soon 2 baby chicks were born. Summer passed, autumn too, the little tree turned red and gold. The winter came with howling winds and cutting cold that broke her boughs. The loons grew south, the sea all ice, the rock all snow, the moon was lost in thunderclouds. Mighty cliff, hold me tight, don't let me blow away. Little tree, with all my might, I'll hold you close, night and day. Storms will come and storms will go. At last the sun melted the snow. But now the tree could not grow. The storm had torn her roots. The moon gazed down and softly said, sometimes we lose our way. But with some help, we start again. That's how life is, you know? And soon a boy came running by, skipping stones into the sea. When he saw the little tree, he stopped and stared. He touched the tiny leaves, he felt the ragged roots. He shook his head and said, I can bring just what you need. I can help you, little tree. A tree can't hug a boy. It has no hands or arms, but it can hug you with its heart, and that is just as deep and warm. Every day, the boy came back carrying a full backpack. From the pack, he took a tin and poured out rich brown earth. He packed the roots and tucked them in. He planted flowers round the tree and made a path for all to see. Now everyone will know that even on a granite cliff, a little tree can grow. And then he went to sleep and dreamed the things that boys dream of. Now every day, new people stop to rest beneath the little tree and dream the things we all dream of, to love, to share, to give, to dare, to grow just where we are. And to this very day they come. For on a splendid, sunny rock by a warm and bright blue sea, a great big hugging tree grows just where she was meant to be. The hugging tree was resilient. And again, to be resilient means to having the ability to overcome obstacles or difficult situations. What are some of the difficulties that the hugging tree overcame? Yes? Yeah, when her roots got tore out, she overcame that with some help from the boy. What else? What else did she overcome? Andre? Yeah, the winter cold. Yeah, she overcame a lot of difficulties. And what helped the tree overcome her difficulties? Yeah. The rock held it tight. The rain helped her grow. the ocean. The sun also helped her grow, yes. The boy, yeah, one more. And the moon, exactly. The cliff held it tight, the sun and rain helped it grow, and there was this community that the boy helped build around the tree to help the tree be resilient. Raise your hand if you've ever found yourself in a difficult time or situation. All right, look around, we all have. Difficulties will occur in life, but just like the tree in this story, we can connect with those around us, share our concerns and our feelings with families and friends, and they'll be there to help us get through. So when we see someone experiencing difficulties, it could be an animal, a plant like the tree, or someone in our family or a friend, show them kindness, listen to their feelings, and be there and encourage them. Thank you for listening to the story with me today. Now please join me in singing the children out to their classrooms.
We come to this place to see and to be seen, to teach and be taught, to hear and to be heard. Now reach over and nudge the person sitting next to you if you're comfortable doing that. We're here together, gathered in peace and authenticity and intention. We come to this place to share our joys and sorrows. If you have a joy or a sorrow to share, I now invite you to come forward and light a candle. You can share what's in your heart or on your mind in 1 or 2 sentences. You can share with a single word, or you can share in silence and simply light a candle.
This candle is in remembrance. In March of 1970, I left my unit on leave in Vietnam to visit my cousin who was flying what was called WFACs out of Thailand, and his job was, as a navigator, was to track troop movements on what you might remember as the Ho Chi Minh Trail. When I arrived there, I found that he had been shot down, and they had radio contact with him for 2 days. The last they heard, he had called ARA on his location, and that allowed the pilot of the ship, of his plane, to be rescued. Voices came up on his radio, and then small gunfire, and there was no more. He was listed as missing in action. This year, 53 years later, we found that he had been executed or killed immediately when he was found. This candle is a remembrance not only of my cousin Dennis Pugh, but all those, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, who gave the last full measure of devotion. Tomorrow, Carol and I will be going to Salina to help dedicate a memorial to those missing in action and killed in action in defense of our country. And this is in remembrance of them.
Thank you for your service. Hello, my name is Curtis again, and I'm lighting this candle. All three of my kids have birthdays in June. I'm lighting this candle mostly in celebration of my beautiful daughter who graduated high school. It was a long struggle, and she did graduate, and the school has decided to have a mock ceremony for her later on this week, where she can walk a stage and be handed her diploma. So this is in celebration of my daughter.
I'll light the rest of these for those joys and sorrows in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. Would you repeat these lines with me? We hear your words, we witness your life in all its heaviness and brilliance, and we carry your joys and sorrows in a shared heart. Let us take a moment to come fully into this place. Please put your feet flat on the floor and take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable and relax into your chair. Allow your breathing to deepen beautifully. Wiggle your jaw, melt. Notice an area that is tense or tight and embrace it and say, relax, it's okay to relax. Let the bustle of getting here melt away and come into this space of holiness. We'll now sing the meditative hymn 1031, Filled with Loving Kindness.
Kindness.
Our first reading is number 664. It's listed as a responsive reading. We're not going to do it as a responsive reading. I'm just going to read it to you. It's called Give Us the Spirit of the Child. Give us the spirit of the child. Give us the child who lives within, the child who trusts, the child who imagines, the child who sings, the child who receives without reservation, the child who gives without judgment. Give us a child's eyes, that we may receive the beauty and freshness of this day like a sunrise. Give us a child's ears, that we may hear the music of mythical times. Give us a child's heart, that we may be filled with wonder and delight. Give us a child's faith, that we may be cured of our cynicism. Give us the spirit of the child, who is not afraid to need, who is not afraid to love. This reading came from Sarah Moores Campbell. Our second reading is from Fred Rogers. I am wearing my cardigan. From the time you were very little, you've had people who have smiled you into smiling, people who have talked you into talking, sung you into singing, loved you into loving. So let's take some time to think of those extra special people. Some of them may be right here. Some may be far away. Some may even be in heaven. No matter where they are, deep down, you know they've always wanted what was best for you. They've always cared about you beyond measure and have encouraged you to be true to the best within you. Let's just take a minute of silence to think about those people now.
I have been a grandfather since 2000 when my grandson Connor was born. Granddaughters Rachel and Sarah followed in 2004 and 2008. I was not allowed to babysit or help care for my grandchildren. I was not in very good standing with my two daughters who were the mothers of these children, as they were in solidarity with their mother after our divorce. But I was allowed to see them on birthdays and various special occasions throughout the years. It did not allow us to be as close as I would have liked to have been. But I think with time can heal that process as they grow as adults and if we're all still around and talking to one another. They know I love them and am interested in what they do. When my wife's son Tommy and his wife Shawnee moved from Oakland to Overland Park in January 2022 and had a baby Samuel on April 25, 2022, my grandpa's options expanded. So I have been given a second chance to prove my skills in grandchild care. So far, so good, I think. I confess that I tend to be a hovering grandparent as I try to keep Sam from bumping into things and getting into things that might harm him. But with gentle counseling from his parents and my wife, I have been hovering less these days, I think. Sam is walking and warming up to running, so babysitting has moved to baby at least walking around all the time. I am on the family team that is doing our best to see that Sam has the best opportunities to experience love and support. Getting ready for this talk encouraged me to finish a book I've had for a while on my shelves, and it reinforced the idea that hovering over our children and grandchildren is probably not the best thing to do to help them to grow up normally. Daniel Goleman in the book Social Intelligence says that we all have an emotional thermostat that is set at birth to say how happy or dour we might be as we grow up. If we have nurturing parents who encourage us to explore and cultivate resilience in recovery from life's ups and downs, then we have a greater capacity for happiness in the future. He says that resilience is better than a steady monotone of delight. I was raised on a farm, as some of you were also, as a child, and my parents did not have time to hover over my sister, who was 2 years older, and my twin brother and me. We did a lot of running back to the house or relying on each other as kids to get out of trouble. I have a lot of stories about the problems and upsets that we had and concerns we caused our parents. Just one story comes to mind on the minor side of things. When my brother David was stung by a yellow jacket wasp as he was walking by one of our sheds, he'd gotten too close to the wasp nest and he hadn't seen it hanging there. He was so mad at that wasp for stinging him that he ran back to the house past my sister and I to get a fly swatter. He was going to get back at those wasps. So when my brother hit that wasp nest with that fly swatter, and it was a good heavy-duty metal one as well, well, he hit that wasp nest with the fly swatter, he riled up a whole air force of wasps. We were all running for cover because he couldn't swat fast enough to get all the wasps that came off that nest. So David was the only one that got stung that day. As it turned out, my sister and I got away. I think that maybe the best we can do as parents and grandparents sometimes is to share the stories like that so our children might avoid the follies and foibles that we had as children growing up, as well as the joys. My life has been guided by an event that happened to my family when I was 10 years old in 1959 that no one anticipated or imagined could happen. I've shared this story before about my grandfather ending his own life early one July morning. It was probably because he had gotten a diagnosis of prostate cancer, and he could have been in pain. My grandfather, Herschel, loved to tell stories about things that interested him, and the foibles of his grandchildren was a common topic with him. One of the best memories I have of my grandfather is telling a story about my cousin who was a couple years younger, and he got even into more trouble than my brother or sister did. But I can close my eyes and see my grandfather standing by the stairs at my Uncle Tom and Aunt Helen's house in Coffeyville, where my cousin Tommy had just purposefully ridden that stair rail head first down the stairs. I don't know what he was thinking, but when he got to the bottom of the stair rail, he went over and broke both of his arms at the same time. He was a bit of a daredevil, and his exploits could fill a book. I could help write the book because I shared in some of those exploits with him. I'll tell another story that I didn't write down, but I just thought of it. He had this horse called Trigger, and it was a red sorrel horse, and he would ride it with just bridle. And sometimes if you wanted to really have a good time, you get on the back of the horse with Tommy, and he would ride through the woods as fast as that horse would go, dodging tree limbs. So I don't know how we survived such experiences like that. And the horse threw him one time into a barbed wire fence, and he bore scars on his face from the barbed wire fence from being thrown from that horse. So Grandpa, back to my grandpa, he expressed how he felt about us by taking us swimming or fishing or for a rowboat ride in his pond or on Pumpkin Creek that was nearby. And afterward, he would buy us orange sodas and candy bars. Pop cost a nickel, and candy bars were 10 cents, so we grandkids were cheap dates. My grandfather was kind of old school, though, when it came to talking about personal things. So no one really knew what was going on with him and how he was handling his diagnosis of prostate cancer. So no one even thought about taking the guns out of the house. My mom was close to her dad, and I think she was as surprised and shocked as the rest of us that it had happened. Mom had a call early that morning, and she had gone into Edna. And Clarice, David, and I were picked up later by a neighbor of our grandparents in Edna and taken to Grandpa and Grandma's house. I do not remember who told us that our grandpa had died, but I do remember getting a hug from my mom's older sister, Aunt Esther, who was not usually a hugger. It was probably Aunt Esther who told us about Grandpa because my mom was consoling my grandmother. In that house that morning, there were a lot of people standing around, and a lot of hugging was going on. Those three ladies, my mom, my grandmother, and my aunt, are on my list of people to remember in gratitude when it comes to Fred Rogers' Loving People list. I pursued a religion major in college and became a United Methodist minister for 6 years of my life because I wanted to dispel any ideas that God would cause my grandfather to suffer eternal punishment because he had taken his own life. I had picked up that horrible idea somewhere after my family's loss. I did not discover Unitarian Universalism, though, until the 1990s. And if I had known about Universalism sooner, it could have saved me a lot of anguish and I could have pursued another career. But my life brought me to SMUUCh. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. My updated theme of life as I approach age 75, the same age as that my grandfather died, is no longer the theological wisdom of universalism, although it is still a bedrock concept. But the idea of communicating personal joys and sorrows, our ups and downs, with one another when we need help or are in trouble, or just regular sharing of our lives. My granddad's exit strategy left his family in a lot of chaos. It may have been his best solution in his own thinking, but it left a lot of loose ends. So, to repeat what I've recently learned at this mature age, is that we need to let our children build their resilience by loving them and supporting them through all their challenging adventures of growing up. And always tell the people you love that you love them when you say goodbye, because it may be the last chance you get. I would also like to recommend a space in small group if you would like to practice deep kind of listening in community. And I know where to refer you to the people to talk to about that. So be it. The work of the church depends on us, our generosity of time, wisdom, and financial resources. We invite you to give generously to support the ongoing work of the church The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared values. As we extinguish the chalice, please join me in saying, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Love will guide us.
I challenge us all as we leave here today to practice our human superpower of empathy as we are able to in our encounters with those dear to us and possibly strangers. To practice saying to ourselves, I notice you, I feel with you, and I will help you, and thus increase the possibility of joy for us all. Go in peace.